Gaku was a math prodigy who lost his passion after bagging L's at every competition. However, when he meets a master chef who trains him to cook, he uses his math skills to make new recipes strong enough to change his bitter rival's mind to appreciate the sensation that comes with a delicious food. It all begins with Gaku submitting a blank sheet of paper during the final test in a math competition. When the chairman of the academy, Seiman, hears this, he reveals his disappointment since Gaku has been the one pushing the academy out there. Because of this, Seiman demoted Gaku to the kitchen to work part-time to support his scholarship program. His friend, Ayu, also works at the restaurant. Ayu is surprised that the top student in the school has been demoted to the kitchen. Gaku takes this as a pinch as he casually makes a dish for them. Apparently, Gaku has always been fond of cooking. While he is preparing a Neapolitan dish, a strange dude in a hoodie, Kai, enters the room. He notices Gaku's placement of a thermometer inside the spoon's container. When Ayu tasted the Neapolitan, her soul practically ascended, which is enough to catch Kai's interest. He asks Ayu if the dish is nice, but to confirm, he jumps into the staff section, grabs Gaku's plate, and consumes the Neapolitan in under a minute. His eyes light up in excitement while asking Gaku what the temperature is. Gaku replies that it is 45 degrees. Kai pats him on the head and just leaves the room without saying anything else. After he is gone, Gaku assumes that another weirdo has made their way into the school. Later on, Gaku tells the school board that he is not interested in joining the next math competition, throwing them into a frenzy. Gaku tells them that the last math exam revealed to him that he doesn't have what it takes to stand out in national competitions. When asked why this is, Gaku fails to give an answer, and Seiman is so pissed that he slams his hand on the table. After leaving Seiman's office, Gaku runs into Kai and some other weirdos like him. Kai demands to know where the chairman's office is. Gaku is about to start giving directions when he remembers that Kai was the one who jumped into the kitchen without invitation. Gaku scolds him for this and then asks him which class he is in. But Kai reveals that he is not a student at the academy. Apparently, Kai is a chef, and he has been invited by the chairman to cook at a gathering that he is organizing. Kai apologizes for the way they met, and as compensation, he asks to cook for Gaku. Gaku agrees to this, and Kai gets down to making the meal. Kai is a competent chef, and he is still 23 years old, but he is already in the limelight. Gaku gets a call from his father, talking about how proud he is that his son is about to get into the university. After the call, Kai presents Gaku with the Neapolitan he just prepared for him. Just as he is about to start eating, Kai starts saying all sorts of weird things about how he has done his research on Gaku. He learned that he is a very bright kid when it comes to mathematics, but he ran into a negative aura during the last math competition. Kai claims he can see something great in Gaku, but Gaku just wants to eat the enticing Neapolitan he is holding in his hand. Gaku dips the fork, but before eating, he takes in all the aroma. A taste from the Neapolitan sends Gaku into a consciousness of food mathematics. He reels in all the formulas and equations needed to make something as nice as what he is eating. In no time, he finishes the food and turns to Kai to ask him how he did it. Instead of telling him how he did it, Kai just tells Gaku that he is an amazing person, and that he is interested in him. Kai leaves the room with Gaku staring in amazement and confusion. Just then, Gaku gets a call from Ayu, telling him that he has been expelled. Gaku finds the chairman and bows to him in the rain, begging him not to expel him. He is not only getting expelled, but the school is also expecting him to return the scholarship money. Gaku begs Seiman, urging him not to make things difficult for his struggling dad. Seiman lets Gaku know that he is not a man who likes to be humiliated, and what he did during the math competition made him lose lots of sponsors. Seiman leaves Gaku in the rain with no pity whatsoever. As he leaves, Gaku tells him that he is not the type of student he needs to grow his academy, but Seiman doesn't care. While soaked and crying in the rain, Kai walks over to him with pity written all over his face. Later that day, Seiman gathers influential people, promising to serve them the best dish. This is all a ploy to get them on his side and make them sponsor his academy. Seiman assures them that he has invited the renowned chef, Kai, to specially prepare the food for the gathering. Kai shows Seiman the menu, and he is shocked to see that he is planning to make Neapolitan for the guests. Seiman is skeptical about the whole thing, but Kai urges him to praise whoever the chef is in front of his guests. It turns out that Kai dragged Gaku from the rain to make Neapolitan for the guests. Gaku is freaking out while everyone else tries to get something done in the kitchen. He finally gets their attention by screaming and saying he is nothing but a loser. Kai then walks up to him, hands him a chef's uniform, and tells him that he has a chance to change the way food is being made with his mathematical ingenuity. However, Kai still gives him the option to reject and prove to everyone that, truly, he is nothing but a loser. After hearing this, Gaku gets to work. In the initial stage of preparing the dish, he finds it difficult to get his rhythm. But when he does, he starts doing all sorts of weird things like putting the pasta in the fridge, shocking Ayu and the others. Not long after this, Gaku finishes preparing the meal, and it is served to the guests, who are shocked to see pasta in their presence. The guests are initially hesitant, but the aroma from the Neapolitan starts convincing them to try it out. They all dig into the dish, and just one taste from it sends a wave of pleasant and satisfying sensations through their bodies. They talk about how the tomatoes match the aroma of the food to make it really delicious. They enjoy the meal so much that they don't want it to finish. Seimin is confident that he has won the minds of the guests, and when Kai asks him if he can bring in the chef who made the dish, Seimin doesn't hesitate. Just then, Kai introduces Gaku to the guests. While everyone is clapping at his ingenuity, Seimin is reeling in shock and disbelief. Kai takes his time to explain the process that Gaku used in making the dish, but Gaku, being modest, bows his head, telling them that everyone can make the same dish as him. Kai shows the guests how brilliant Gaku is when he reveals that he also makes sure to heat the spoons and other tableware to make them more comfortable for whoever is going to eat the dish. This is when it dawns on the guests that the forks were actually nice to hold. Kai continues to glaze Gaku in front of the guests while asking him to reveal more about the food preparation. The more Gaku explains, the more he leaves the guests in total disbelief. After he is done explaining, Kai plays the card he has been waiting for by telling the guests that Gaku is a student of Wells Academy. Kai continues to push Seimin into a wall that he can't run from by telling the guests that Seimin's intentions were to introduce Gaku to them in the best way. The guest gulps up this lie like milk as they immediately stand to their feet, commending Seimin for his ingenuity. Because of this, they promise to sponsor the academy with more funds and incentives. Kai then holds Gaku's hand and takes him to Seimin, telling him to praise Gaku even better in front of the guests. Seimin's ego trips in as he asks Kai what his play is. Kai slowly leans over to whisper in his ear. Kai tells Seimin that the guests are all ready to support his academy because Gaku is a student there. He gives him the scenario of what would happen if that is not the case. Seimin has no choice but to follow Kai's recommendation as he forcibly praises Gaku in front of the guests while sweat runs down his face. Once Kai realizes that his mission is over, he turns around to leave, but Gaku stops him. Kai then tells Gaku that he will be willing to see him in his restaurant because his mathematical way of thinking about food might just be the key to unlocking the truth about cooking that no one has ever reached. Kai smiles while telling Gaku that he will be waiting for him. Gaku is stuck with Kai's words in his head as he dreams about it overnight. Gaku heads to the living room to talk to his father, who is interested in Tokyo University. Gaku assures his father that he will get into the university with no stress. Just then, they see math genius, Kagura, talking on TV. Gaku tells his father that Kagura is an acquaintance of his, and the two solve math questions together. After they are done watching TV, Gaku enjoys a dish specially prepared by his father. Gaku then reveals his intention to go to Tokyo. His father is shocked by this, but he assures his father that he is going to be back soon. Since he trusts his son, he tells him to do what he wants. In no time, Gaku gets on a bus and heads to Tokyo. He arrives at the address given to him by Kai. Gaku enters the restaurant, and the only person he meets is Nin, the maid. Nin welcomes him but tells him that there is no customer appointment. Gaku is about to start explaining his motives when the redhead chef, Rana, appears from behind and takes over the conversation. It turns out that Rana is aware that Gaku is coming to the restaurant. Rana heads to the fridge to get Gaku a drink while telling him how they have changed things up since their boss met him. They are now regulating everything in the room, including the doorknob, to make it more pleasing for the customers to touch when entering the restaurant. Rana tells Gaku how proud Kai is that he met someone like Gaku. He adds that Kai is not in the business of praising people, but Gaku is basically an exception to that. Rana then tells Gaku to have his seat while she prepares a dish for him. Gaku's poor bank account sends a notification to his brain, and he tells Rana that he is not buoyant enough to afford any meal in the restaurant. Rana calms him down, telling him that Kai already told her to prepare the dish for him, but there is one condition attached to it. Gaku must be able to reveal the constituents of the dish, and if he cannot, he is disqualified. Gaku sits, and in no time, Rana comes to him with a dish she just prepared. She starts talking about how hard it is to be a chef, and the culinary world being strict. But as usual, Gaku just shuts her up, telling her that he is interested in eating. From the first look at the dish, Gaku figures out that the meat is pork. He is impressed by how tender the pork is. He adds the orange sauce inside the plate to the pork, and immediately figures out that it is made from crab flavor. Rana is shocked to see that Gaku got the ingredients right, but that is not the end, as there are still many more ingredients in the constituents of the dish. Gaku then requests a pen and paper. He solves some equations on it to try and figure out how Rana was able to blend seafood with pork. After racking his brain, he realizes that it is crab roe. Rana is stunned as she wonders what sort of genius Gaku is. Gaku continues praising Rana for the delicious dish, and just as he is about to conclude that he has figured out all the constituents, his brain kicks in, telling him that there is more. He realizes that there is a synergy effect that makes the food even more delicious. Immediately, he says this, Rana gasps in shock, and Kai enters the room. Apparently, Gaku has figured out the constituents and the process involved in making the dish. Kai is impressed that Gaku was able to figure out the fifth sense when it comes to taste. There are several flavors, but they need to be able to merge well, and in the right way to make a delicious food to satisfy a customer. Gaku then commends Rana, and he thanks her for preparing such a nice delicacy. Just then, Kai tells Gaku that he has a test for him. One of the guests present at Seimon's gathering, Congressman Musashi, has come to the restaurant to celebrate his family's birthday. Kai wants Gaku to cook for the congressman, and he warns him not to mess it up because if he does, he doesn't ever want to see Gaku around him. Gaku realizes that Kai is not joking because of his facial reaction and the command tone in his voice. Musashi then opens the door for his daughter to enter, and Gaku almost vanishes into the ground when he realizes that Musashi's daughter is Kagura. Musashi is also surprised that Gaku knows his daughter, and he reveals that they both attended the same math training camp. Kai tells them that Gaku will be the one to cook, and Kagura hears this. She moves into her mean mode. Kagura asks Gaku if he has finally given up on his dream to become a mathematician. Kagura explains that nothing aside from mathematics interests him, and not even food. She believes that she is going to have brain rot if she stays around Gaku too long. After she is done saying her mean words, she turns around to leave, but Kai stops her. He tells her not to make her conclusions without tasting the food. Gaku manages to push off the aura-destroying comments that he just got from Kagura, and he assures her that he is going to prepare food that she likes. With this, Kagura and her father sit down, and Kagura places her note on the table, while they wait for the food to be prepared. Gaku enters the kitchen, and she is blown away by the amount of ingredients present there. He has never worked with this many ingredients in the past. In addition to this, no one in the kitchen gives a damn about him. Everyone is busy doing their thing, but Kai soon enters, assuring Gaku that he is going to be his assistant. He lets him know that he is only going to be assisting and will not do anything to impair his recipe or ideas. Gaku then tells Kai to help him write the taste values of the ingredients on the board. Kai obliges, and he does this without using a note since he claims that he has everything stored in his head. After writing out the values, Kai mentions inosinic acid and glutamic acid as a reference point for Gaku. He says these are values that helped Rana prepare the crab and pork dish, which made it delicious and satisfying. Kai intentionally wants to throw Gaku off, but Gaku immediately figures this out. He asks Kai if there are only two taste values, like the glutamic and inosinic acid, but Kai says no. Kai is impressed that Gaku figured this out really quickly. He tells him that he would have sent him away if he had tried to copy Rana's values to make his own dish. Meanwhile, Kagura is standing by the kitchen door, and she is watching everything unfold. Just then, Kai and Rana set another trap for Gaku. They try to derail him based on the calculations he has previously made, and he realizes that he is wrong. Gaku falls into panic mode since he is also running out of time to come up with a recipe to cook. When Kagura sees this, she walks away, telling Nin that Gaku has failed already. She believes that there is no way he is coming back from a mathematical downfall. Just then, Gaku remembers a key ingredient, the tile fish. This is a fish that his father once prepared as a reward for his son for passing his exams. Gaku remembers how good the fish tasted. This was the only time he had tasted it, but he was able to work out an equation and immediately came up with a recipe, shocking everyone in the kitchen. Gaku and everyone get down to work, and Gaku takes the lead role in doing the major things. After he has carefully prepared the fish, Nin serves it to Kagura and her father. It turned out to be a pan-fried tilefish with scallops and prosciutto broth. Just by seeing the dish, Kagura is already invested, but she decides to taste before making her conclusions. Kagura and her father take a bite and are both sent into the paradise of satisfaction and pleasure. While they talk about how good the dish is, Gaku shows up, telling them that he was able to achieve the great result because of the synergy effect. He explains the calculations he did before he was able to come to the conclusion. Kagura, who had earlier claimed she didn't care about food, started smiling as she ate the meal. Gaku reveals that to get his desired result, he had to follow Gaku's advice by removing his subjective thoughts. Gaku was able to use his knowledge of mathematics to find a way out. When Kagura hears this, she puts in her own contribution, and Gaku runs over to hold her hand, while saying he was pretty sure that Kagura would understand him. Musashi is forced to stand up and push Gaku away from his precious daughter. Kai then adds to the conversation by spewing a bunch of boring things about subjective thoughts and objective thoughts. After they are done eating, Kagura and his daughter prepare to leave. As Kagura is about to enter the vehicle, Gaku reminds her that she forgot her notebook. Kagura turns around and snatches the notebook from Gaku, shocking everybody. Kagura subtly commends Gaku on how he prepared the dish. As they drive away, Musashi scolds his daughter for acting coldly toward Gaku when all he did was try to satisfy her. Unknown to him and everyone else, Kagura is hiding a picture of her and Gaku that they took in her notebook, and she knows how embarrassing it would be for people to see it. With the departure of the customers, Gaku bows to Kai, begging him to give him the chance to work at his restaurant after he graduates from the academy. Gaku reveals that he has figured out that cooking might be his thing after all, and he wants to use his knowledge of mathematics with this. Kai shakes Gaku's hands, telling him that working at the restaurant to become divine chefs. After graduating from the academy, Gaku, who is the top student, drops out of Tokyo University after gaining admission. This shocks everyone, but Gaku is determined to pursue his dream as a chef. Ayu asks him if he really wants to be a chef, and he says yes, since he will be working at Kai's restaurant, which is in Tokyo. Ayu tells him to always call on her if he needs anything. Later on, Gaku prepares a delicious meal for his father, and after he is done eating, Gaku tells his father his plan to drop out of university and become a chef. His father doesn't get mad and instead, he sends him over to Kai, telling him to take care of himself. Gaku knows that his father has always wanted him to graduate from the university, but all he can do is apologize for dashing his father's hope. Gaku arrives in Tokyo, and he sits in a park, waiting for Kai to show up. After 2 hours, Kai finally shows up, apologizing for being late. While he was waiting, Gaku had recorded the people's patterns and movement behavior so he could use them in his calculations later. Kai then tells Gaku to follow him so that they can get him a place to stay. They arrive at an apartment building, and Gaku thanks Kai for helping him get a place that is not too expensive since he doesn't have the money to pay rent.
You're broke!
As they walk up the stairs, Gaku is shocked to learn that the apartment is for Kai and that Gaku will be staying in one of the rooms. Kai leads him to the room where he will be staying. Kai claims that it is empty, but when he opens the door, there is a lady inside. This turns out to be one of Kai's regulars, and he forgot that she was still in the house from yesterday. Without hesitation, Kai throws her things out the window and tells her to get lost. Kai stands at the window to look at the nice view of the city, and he officially welcomes Gaku to Tokyo. Kai also made a Neapolitan dish for him. Gaku wants to know what his tasks are. Kai explains that all the roles in the restaurant have been taken, including the work of a maid. He lets Gaku know that his job is to open the door to the real truth about cooking. Kai aims to groom Gaku as a professional chef, saying he needs Gaku as his nourishment. Gaku tries the Neapolitan dish, and he falls off the cooking bridge as he realizes that Kai has added another twist to it to make it even more delicious. Gaku commends the cooking, and in the end, he calls it a very wonderful dish, believing that it is perfect. However, Kai debunks this, telling Gaku that he needs to think outside the box if he wants to remain by his side. Kai mentions his goal to attain greatness. He then gives Gaku his first task. He tells him to cook for the staff. Kai lets him know that there are 2 people who will be hard to satisfy, and these are Hotai and Milo, since they are professional chefs who have enough experience to open their own restaurant. He mentions that the staff must approve of him, and he has just 1 week to do this. Kai urges him to throw everything he knows in the trash, saying common sense will not get him anywhere. Even though the task seems difficult, Gaku is excited to take on the challenge since this is why he wanted to work for Kai in the first place. When Gaku resumes work the next day, Nin gives him a white uniform to wear, telling him that it is meant for chefs under training, while the black uniform is for those who are already considered to be experts. Rana enters the room, not knowing that Gaku has resumed. She is exposed, giving Gaku free tickets to see her cups. Rana tells Nin to always indicate when the changing room is not safe to enter. Gaku remembers the condition that Kai gave him, and even though he has a week to get the staff approval, he is not ready to wait a whole week. Gaku enters the kitchen, and he is shocked to see it packed with people. Nin then explains to him that he didn't meet the entire staff roster the last time he came, since they were only serving customers with reservations. However, they have 15 elite staff working in the restaurant, which includes the servers and the chef. Gaku tries to be polite, and he humbly greets everyone working the kitchen, but they all stare at him like some weirdo. Inui is the first to walk to him to hand him potatoes to dice up with specific instructions. Gaku handles this pretty easily, impressing Inui. After this, another chef approaches Gaku with another task. Gaku notices that there are lots of foreigners working in the restaurant. He is impressed with the fact that they are all there to learn and grow. Gaku handles his first 2 tasks pretty easily. Inui tells Gaku that he is glad he has joined them since they want someone dependable. Gaku assures them that he is up for whatever task is given to him by the staff. Gaku tries to know their names, but they just shut him off like he doesn't exist. Kai soon enters the room to tell them that they are fully booked for lunch. In no time, the real work begins. Gaku soon realizes how hard it is to be a chef as he starts sweating in no time. His efficiency immediately drops as he loses his stamina. Hotai screams at him to get things done faster. Gaku looks in horror as one of the ingredients he cut is thrown in the trash. Inui claims that Gaku didn't do it right. Gaku admits that he messed it up. He initially did the first batch pretty well, but in a hurry to keep up with others, he started cutting the ingredients in the most irregular ways. Gaku offers to redo it, but Inui refuses, telling Gaku that he is free to go home since his legs are already shaking. They have only been open an hour, and Gaku is already breathing like an exhausted antelope. Gaku stubbornly refuses the order, saying that he can still do it. However, he loses his balance and ends up tripping over some tableware and ingredients. Embarrassed at the turn of events, Gaku stands up and heads outside. Gaku realizes the bitter truth about everything. He is only good at mathematics and has never tried to improve his stamina. The fear of getting fired, just like Kai said, gets him back on his feet, as he is determined to pass the test. Just then, Nin shows up, telling Gaku that it is time to make the staff meal. She deduces that Gaku might be too tired to make the meal. Nin mentions that everyone gets tired at some point since they are humans. The moment Gaku hears this, he runs back to the kitchen. Nin informs him that he is free to use all the ingredients in the kitchen to prepare the staff meal. Gaku then reveals that the only things he needs are the leftover potatoes, beef, and carrots. Gaku gets down to cooking while the rest of the staff watch. Shortly afterward, Gaku finishes up with the meal. It turns out to be beef and potato soup. The staff are shocked at the outcome and the enticing aroma coming from the food, and Gaku is confident that he has hit the jackpot. Hotai turns to look at him and asks him if he is confident with what he just prepared, and Gaku says yes. The staff takes a bite from the dish, and they all like it. They start talking about the great method that Gaku used in preparing the food. After hearing the wonderful praises from the staff, Gaku rejoices, believing that he has gotten on everyone's good side. Gaku is asked why he chose to prepare beef and potato soup. Gaku then reveals that he considers it the most nourishing meal. After he heard what Nin said about everyone getting tired, he realized that they are all going to need a good meal to restore their expended energy. After he is done explaining everything to them, Nin suggests that they should start voting. Nin tells everyone who thinks Gaku's meal is a pass to raise their hands. Gaku watches in anticipation, but his entire existence is immediately shattered when he realizes that only 2 people, Nin and Milo, raised their hands. With this, his assessment is nothing but a failure, and the staff, who were already praising him, just return to their workstation like it was nothing. Gaku is shocked to see just 2 votes, and Kai also agrees that 2 votes on his first try is pretty low. He reminds him that he only has 1 week to get everyone's approval, or else he is done. Just then, Hotai walks up to him, telling him that no one asked him to prepare a meal. Hotai tells him that all they want is a dish that will send them off their feet. Gaku then mentions that everyone complimented the food for being delicious, but Hotai tells him that he is stuck with his mathematical way of thinking, and he needs to start observing humans, or else he is not cut out to be a chef. 5 days later, Gaku still can't get the hang of it. He has tried several dishes, but he keeps getting rejected. He even used high-quality ingredients, but it remains the same. There is also a lot of work that he is not used to. Gaku sits in the park, thinking of the 2 days he has left. He has hit a brick wall with no idea coming to his head. He checks his phone to read his father's texts. He has been so busy that he hasn't gotten back to his father in 3 days. Suddenly, he hears someone call his name. Gaku looks up, and he is shocked to see Ayu. Ayu is happy to see Gaku, but she is surprised that he is not at the restaurant. Gaku reveals that the restaurant only opens at night on Wednesdays, which is why he is at the park. Gaku notices that Ayu is using crutches, and she reveals that she has been training non-stop. She tells Gaku that the people she is going up against are tough monsters. However, she is not giving up since swimming is the only thing she knows how to do. She was practicing so hard and ended up getting herself injured. She is the least competent of all, and she has also gotten herself injured. Ayu admits Tokyo is a harsh place, and Gaku agrees, but they are there already, and they can't go back. Ayu then reaches into her bag to bring out a lunchbox that she prepared just in case she ran into Gaku. The moment Gaku tastes the dish, he figures out the ingredients, and he realizes that Ayu made use of their local miso ingredient. This is an ingredient that they don't have in Tokyo, and Ayu is glad that they don't, so she can continue enjoying the rare taste whenever she wants to. As she eats the food, Ayu breaks down in tears. Gaku grabs her as if he wants to lock lips with her, but in reality, he is holding back tears, too. Suddenly, it dawns on him the weird feeling that he is getting. Ayu notices that Gaku is already thinking again, and she commends him for who he is. Gaku thanks Ayu and asks her if he can take the lunchbox back to the restaurant, and she says yes. Meanwhile, the staff already believes that Gaku has given up on his task. They enter the kitchen, but to their surprise, Gaku is already there. He has a book in his hand, and he has already written out equations inside the book. The day's work begins, and everyone is surprised when Gaku starts attending to them before they even demand what they want. It turns out that Gaku has taken his time to study everyone and know their movements. Gaku took Ayu's words to heart, and with this, he is able to predict everyone's movements and the recipe that is about to be prepared. However, his stamina soon catches up to him. He almost trips, but Hotai catches him, telling him how impressed he is. Hotai then gives Gaku a bit of advice. He tells him to train his body to move freely and not trust data. Gaku assures Hotai that he is going to take this advice, but he lets Hotai know that he needs experience and the time to adjust so he can be more effective. Gaku assures Hotai that his data will also come in handy. Hotai is shocked when he hears the words coming out of Gaku's mouth. By the end of the day, Gaku had managed to impress everyone with his contribution to the task. Hotai commends him for his agility, but reminds him that the staff meal is the main thing he needs to get right if he wants their approval. They remind him that he has 2 days, but Gaku assures them that he doesn't need tomorrow again. When asked why he is so confident, he tells them that he has figured out the clue to everything, and it is homesickness. Hotai and everyone else hear this, and they are shocked. Kai is impressed when he hears this, and he tells everyone to leave the kitchen while Gaku prepares the meal. It turns out that Gaku figured out his mistake during the first meal. He didn't take into consideration the fact that there are foreigners in the group, and he just prepared it based on his local dish. Apparently, they all have a different way of preparing the potato and beef soup in their respective countries. Kai is shocked and impressed at the same time when he sees what Gaku is making. After he is done cooking, the staff are allowed to enter to eat. They are confused when they see the meal since they do not recognize the gray thing sitting beside the beef. However, the taste of the food sends them into a frenzy. They are shocked to see that the gray stuff is potato. It turns out that Gaku chose potato and beef yet again, but this time with a different preparation method. Since they are all confused about the dish, Gaku starts explaining the process it took him to prepare it. He explains what he did to the beef just to get it to become tender and absorb the ingredients and flavors he wants to add. And for the potato, Gaku charred it till the bark became black. He then mashed it to make it soft to complement the dish. Kai also assists him in explaining the other ingredients that Gaku added. Gaku reveals that he prepared the dish to serve as a whole unit to satisfy every person from different countries. After he is done explaining and they are done eating, Gaku is shocked to hear them criticizing the food. Gaku almost crashes out as he doesn't know what is wrong again, but it turns out that they were just messing with him. Once they have all approved of his food, they start introducing themselves to Gaku. The big guy with blonde hair is David. The dude with a low cut and an unsavable receding hairline is Wang. The chef with the grumpy attitude is Shishido. The young, cool serving lady is Annette. And the orange-haired dude is Inui. Hotai then walks up to Gaku to give him his uniform, signaling that he has been accepted. Kai is impressed with the way Gaku did everything. He included physics, chemistry, and even the study of human behavior to finally get it right. Gaku then visits Ayu to tell her that he has been hired. He prepares a thank you dish for her, and Ayu suggests that they eat it in the park. Weeks later, Gaku calls Ayu to tell her about his daily episodes at the restaurant. Gaku admits that he still has a long way to go, but he is getting help from the staff. He has been preparing the staff meal since he got hired. Gaku has been trying his best, but Kai has not given him permission to prepare customers' meals yet. Gaku considers himself a loser since he doesn't have the credibility to cook for customers yet. This is the last thing he tells Ayu before sleeping off during the phone call. Gaku suddenly finds himself dreaming about his first day of cooking for customers. Kagura appears in his dream, telling him that he has to be brave if he wants to cook for customers and not mess it up. Gaku claims that he is not scared, and Kagura points to the door, telling him to cook for the dude, who is about to enter. The dude enters the room, and it turns out to be Heroes. Mere seeing Heroes, Gaku is crippled with anxiety. It turns out that Heroes is an old rival of his when it comes to mathematics. As they grow older, Heroes mocks Gaku, telling him that he will never become a mathematician. Gaku's fear in the dream affects him in real life as he starts to moan. Kai finds him in this position and already knows what is wrong with him. When Gaku wakes up, he apologizes for the embarrassing moment. But Kai understands that he is so desperate to cook for customers. Kai prepares a meal of egg over rice for Gaku. Gaku had previously done this for the staff, but Kai tweaked it and served it to Gaku. Kai explains the boring changes that he made to Gaku's recipe while Gaku just focuses on consuming the meal in front of him. The conversation soon shifts to Gaku's rival, Heroes. Kai believes that Gaku can't stand Heroes, but Gaku debunks this, telling Kai that Heroes is his friend, just like Kagura is. Gaku talks about how Heroes has been clearing every challenge and obstacle in front of him as long as it deals with maths. He has been coming first in all of the competitions, leaving Gaku behind. Apparently, Gaku, Kagura, and Heroes were study partners. However, Heroes soon climbed up the ranks when it came to math, and talking to him became so uncomfortable for Gaku. Gaku sees himself as a loser, while Heroes is the perfect representation of what he really wants to be. After they are done eating, Gaku asks Kai if he has a rival, too. This question strikes deep, but Kai reveals that he had a rival. However, he has defeated his so-called rival, which is why he is at the top. Kai then asks Gaku if he will be scared if he is asked to serve Heroes food. Gaku replies that he has not really given it a thought. Just then, Kai tells Gaku the reason why he hasn't allowed Gaku to serve customers food. Kai knows that Gaku's only weapon is math, but he has not even been able to master it. Kai then tells Gaku that preparing food for Heroes might be a good training method for him. However, Kai is disappointed that he can't invite Gaku's friend over, so he can use him to train. Gaku agrees with Kai, telling him that there is no way that they can get their hands on Heroes since he is studying abroad. In addition to this, he is not someone who takes an interest in food. The moment Kai hears the name, something clicks inside his head. Kai asks Gaku if Heroes has won any major awards as of late. Gaku reveals that Heroes is part of a special award-winning team dedicated to Japanese mathematics. Immediately he hears this, Kai brings out the culinary invitation he just received at the Teiho Hotel. There is an award ceremony that will take place at the hotel, and surprisingly, Heroes is among those who will be receiving an award. Kai laughs like a maniac while telling Gaku that fate has finally drawn him close to his rival. Kai then tells Gaku that he will be the one to prepare food on the day of the award, leaving Gaku totally horrified and scared to death. Later on, Heroes puts a call through to Kagura, and they both talk about Gaku. Heroes then tells Kagura that Gaku can never escape from him since they are drawn together by fate. Gaku wakes up from a nightmare where he served Heroes during the award ceremony, but it turned out really badly. Confused and scared, Gaku heads to Tokyo University to talk to Kagura. Kagura is shocked when she sees Gaku, and Gaku doesn't waste time before spilling why he has come to see Kagura. Gaku tells Kagura that he easily figured out that he was dreaming when he saw Heroes talking to him with a smile on his face. He reminds Kagura that Heroes grew past them in mathematics, and he is now someone he sees as a divine being. Kagura believes that Gaku should be thankful that Heroes is ignoring him so that he can have the confidence to serve other customers. However, Gaku is worried because Heroes' expression at the end of the nightmare scares him really badly. The two soon abandon the main reason behind their conversation and indulge in a sandwich that Gaku brought. Kagura takes a bite from the sandwich, and she starts seeing heaven. She gets a feeling of all the ingredients packed into the sandwich as it slips into her mouth. Gaku also takes pride in his work as he excitedly explains how he went about making the sandwich. While talking, Kagura stares at him, and it reminds her of the reason she initially liked Gaku. Kagura reveals that Gaku has a way of explaining in detail anything that amazes him, and this was how he was when he really loved maths. Kagura tells her story, revealing that her passion for maths isolated her from the world, taking away her opportunity to make friends. However, she didn't care as she made mathematics her world. However, everything changed the first time she met Gaku. Gaku was a passionate kid when it came to mathematics, but at the same time, he enjoyed it. Kagura saw Gaku as the best since he enjoyed playing around with mathematics, although Kagura believes she is now better since Gaku has fallen off really badly. Kagura confesses that her meeting with Gaku made her become better, and she basically sees Gaku as her stepping stone. Gaku then mentions how Heroes surpasses him in everything when it comes to mathematics. Gaku saw Heroes as someone who enjoys mathematics, while he, on the other hand, only tries to do his best. Kagura then suggests that there is the possibility that Gaku lost his enjoyment for maths when he met Heroes. After he hears this from Kagura, Gaku agrees that Heroes might have been the reason. Kagura then recounts the precious moments they spent together when they were younger, and she wishes that they could still follow the same path where they solved math problems together. Gaku grabs Kagura's hand, thanking her for the enlightenment, but just then, his phone starts ringing. He picks up the call, and it turns out to be Ayu, who is speaking so loudly and talking about coming over to Gaku's house to make dinner. Kagura gets so jealous when she hears this, and she smashes her lunch basket on Gaku's head before running away. Later on, Kai tells his chefs about the resolution he has come up with. For the award ceremony, they need to make food plans to be served, and they are left with an appetizer, soup, and a meat dish. Kai shocks them when he reveals that they are going to have to submit applications to be picked to work on the said dishes. Kai lets them know that they are free to pick one of the dishes and apply for it. After 3 days, they are to submit an example to compete for the position to make the said dish during the award ceremony. Whoever wins will be the one to make the dish. The moment they hear this, they apply for the respective dish that they believe they are most capable of. However, Gaku turns things up a notch when he applies for the 3 categories. He also tells Kai to be strict with him when judging his application. After the day's work, the rest of the chef rushes home to think about which recipe they will present since they have just 3 days. This leaves Gaku and Inui. Inui acknowledges Gaku's brilliance, but he believes that Gaku has gotten in over his head by applying for the 3 categories. Since Inui has been praying for his downfall, he believes that Gaku has finally dug a pit for himself to fall in. Just then, Gaku asks Inui what soup he is making, but Inui says he is not going to reveal it. Gaku then makes a weird proposition, suggesting that they taste each other's dishes. He reminds Inui that Kai will still be the judge of everything in the end. Kai already let them know that he will personally be in charge of the categories if none of them are able to meet his standard. Gaku believes that this condition makes things difficult. However, Inui is a bit experienced, and Gaku believes that they should work together instead of competing against the experienced chefs. Surprisingly, Inui agrees to this, and they start preparing a dish. Momentarily, Inui mentions that there is a flaw in Gaku's suggestion. He says there is the possibility of them lying to each other about the taste of their dishes. This is when it dawns on Gaku that Inui is actually right. He starts racking his head with the possible solutions, but unknown to him, Inui is only messing with him. Inui assures Gaku that his soup is good, but tells him that it is lacking in depth. In no time, Gaku gets down to calculations, trying to figure out what he is getting wrong. Inui soon catches Gaku looking around his room, and he berates him. Inui believes that Gaku is looking down on him because his apartment is small compared to Kai's. Gaku debunks this, but asks Inui why he relocated to Tokyo. This is when Inui reveals that he is the son of a respected chef, who owns an expensive Japanese restaurant in Kyoto, but he got kicked out. Gaku is shocked since Inui is now working in Kai's French restaurant. Inui explains that he had a fight with his father because he is always criticizing him for sticking to old-fashioned ways without evolving. After leaving Kyoto, Inui came to Tokyo to find the world's best cuisine, but all the food he tasted was trash until he walked into Kai's restaurant. Inui had a taste of Kai's dish, and this was when he found the click he had been looking for. He immediately begged to learn under Kai, but he plans to combine the skills he learns from Kai with the ones he had before when he returns to Kyoto, so he can change his father's restaurant. Soon afterward, the tasting day finally arrives, and Inui is the first to have his dish tasted by the 3 judges, Kai, Milo, and Hotai. Hotai and Milo compliment his dish, but when it gets to Kai's turn, Kai tells him that his dish is lacking, crushing his spirit right there. After Ennui, Wang is told to get his dish ready for tasting. Wang prepares an eel soup, and when Hotai and Milo taste it, they commend him for a job well done. Apparently, Wang left his home country, China, to study in Japan. When Kai tasted his dish, he let him know that it was nice. It turns out that Wang met Kai while working at a restaurant as a chef assistant. Kai was impressed with the way Wang prepared his dish, and this was when Kai offered him the chance to leave China and travel to Japan to learn more from him. After they are done tasting his dish, Wang walks over to where Gaku is and stares him in the face without saying anything. Everyone else is confused when they see this, and Rana assumes that Wang is trying to intimidate Gaku, since he is Kai's favorite student. In addition, Gaku signed up for 3 dishes, which is making his preparations slow. After Wang is done staring at him, Wang walks away and still doesn't say anything. Momentarily, David presents his dish to the judges. It turns out that David is from France, and this is where he ran into Kai. David took an interest in Kai because he couldn't help but wonder why they were allowing a Japanese person to prepare a French dish. Kai noticed that David was looking down on him, and he intentionally prepared a Japanese dish for David. He tasted it and was blown away, which is why he is now in Japan to learn more about cooking from Kai. Milo tastes David's food, and he starts to heap praises on him. David uses the opportunity to explain everything inside the dish that he prepared. He is boasting about his dish until he notices the disappointment on Kai's face. After they are done with him, they announce that the next chef should bring their dish for tasting. Since Gaku is taking time with his dish, Shishido offers to go first. Shishido prepares a full roasted chicken for the judges, and he cuts it into portions for them. The chefs dig in, and just from the aroma alone, they are blown apart. Hotai commends Shishido for being able to successfully roast a full chicken without blemish. Surprisingly, Kai loves it, and he lets Shishido know that he is proud of him. Shishido appreciates the gesture, and he bows to Kai to show his loyalty. Apparently, Shishido really respects Kai, as he can be considered a blind follower. Even though he is a capable chef, Shishido is staying under Kai so he can work with him forever. With Shishido out of the way, only Gaku and Rana are left to serve their dishes. While the two are preparing their dishes, Gaku asks Rana why she is working at the restaurant, but she refuses to answer. Just then, Nin enters, and she exposes the truth. Apparently, Rana is the daughter of the previous owner of the restaurant, but after Kai bought it, he recognized Rana's talent and allowed her to work for him. After hearing this, Gaku concludes that Rana likes Kai, but she gets defensive about it. Gaku rephrases what he said, telling Rana that she only wanted experience, which is why she started working for Kai. Rana gets really mad and tries to break Gaku's spirit by yelling at him, but Gaku shocks her by telling her that he is now more confident than when he started at the restaurant. Gaku is then called to the hall to serve his dish. The judges are shocked to see Gaku come out with just 1 dish when he submitted an application for 3. Gaku confidently assures them that this is the only dish he has. Once the dish is placed in front of them, they are thrown aback by the flavor and the elegant appearance of the dish. Kai immediately figures out the ingredients he used in making the dish in front of them. Because Gaku is very confident in himself, Kai doesn't hesitate before digging his spoon into the dish to actually try out what he has been preparing for hours. A taste from it sends Hotai to dreamland as he starts to talk about how delicious the dish is. He is also able to guess one of the ingredients correctly. Kai also analyzes the dish, and Gaku kicks into overdrive, explaining to them how he was able to achieve the delicious dish. After they are done tasting and have figured out what ingredients he used, the trio starts getting uninterested in the dish. Hotai believes the appetizer lacks impact, but the moment Gaku notices that their excitement is dying down, he tells Nin to bring the next pot. Inside the new pot is a broth made from several sea creatures, and just the aroma from it sends them gaga. Gaku explains that he intentionally let them eat 1/3 of the appetizer before he came forward with the broth. Adding the broth to the appetizer immediately turns it into a soup. leaving everyone shocked. It turns out that Gaku was able to figure out what to do after his first conversation with Inui, because Inui told him that his soup aroma was weak. Gaku dived into his mathematical brilliance to find a solution to the problem. When the judges taste the dish, they are left astounded by it. Even those who are watching are already wishing that they could get a taste. Gaku then explains that he initially wanted to put the broth beside the guests so that they could serve it themselves, but he changed his mind. He realizes that the guests need to enjoy their dish, and this is when he came up with the idea that the staff will be the ones to serve the broth to the guests. After he is done serving them with the broth, Gaku then finishes it off with hot fried pork, leaving them in total disbelief. This is when it dawns on them that the 3 dishes that Gaku promised have been prepared right in front of them, and everything came out on just one plate. Even Kai is impressed by what Gaku prepared, and he commends him. After Gaku, Rana enters with her dish. Not long after this, they gather the chef to announce the final results. Meanwhile, Kagura was in the middle of solving a math question when Heroes called her via video call. Kagura is shocked by this, but she tries to keep her nervousness under control so that Heroes won't notice. Heroes reveals that he is aware that Gaku has gone to Kyoto to become a chef. Kagura defends Gaku's decision by saying he has chosen a different path, but Heroes argues this. He tells Kagura that Gaku might have become a chef, but he is only exploring another space where mathematics is useful. Heroes believes that Gaku became a chef for the sake of mathematics. Suddenly, Heroes hits Kagura with a shocker and suggests that they get married. Since they are both mathematicians, they believe that they are the perfect fit for each other. But Kagura is not in line with how Heroes compares everything to a mathematical equation. After the call with Heroes, Kagura prays that Gaku will prepare a really nice dish that will satisfy Heroes, or else Heroes will make sure to ruin his career as a chef just like his mathematics career. When it is time to announce the results, Milo is the one who steps forward to address them, while Kai and Hotai stay behind to have a private conversation. Once they are done, Kai walks to the board to write out the results. For the appetizer, Rana will be in charge, while Wang will be in charge of the soup, and for the fish dish, Milo will be taking over that area. Gaku's entire world starts to crumble in front of him when he doesn't see his name on the board. Kai and Hotai admit that Gaku tried his best when it came to the fish soup. Gaku cannot understand what he did wrong. Everything Kai is saying keeps falling on his deaf ears as he is already lost in the zone of despair. Gaku knows fully well that he won't be able to stand in Heroes' presence if he can't pass the elementary stage set for him by Kai. Just then, Kai walks up to the board to reveal what he and Hotai came up with. It turns out that they have decided that Gaku will be in charge of dessert. This only makes things worse as Gaku is totally thrown off the rails by this. Kai tells him that he will teach him everything he needs to know about making dessert before the day of the ceremony. But on the day of the ceremony, he is free to come up with any type of dessert that he wants. Gaku has never been interested in desserts, which is why he has never made one, and this just leaves him to question why Kai will put him in the dessert category. After this, Ayu tried reaching Gaku but couldn't get through. It turns out that Gaku is depressed and has locked himself in his room. Even when Kai shows up at his door to teach him how to make dessert, he doesn't open up. However, Kai stays by the door, and he starts explaining how to make the perfect ice cream and how to serve it. Kai excitedly explains the boring procedures in doing this, and he also reminds Gaku that he has just 3 weeks to come up with a good dessert recipe. Gaku has finally had enough, and he opens the door, asking Kai why he is treating him like trash. Gaku explains that he already came up with the best dish possible, which he wants to serve to Heroes at the award ceremony. This is something he put his energy and time into because he has been watching how things are done at the restaurant. Gaku explains how he has combined several equations while also learning from Kai, just so he can get the perfect recipe. Gaku asks Kai what he wants him to do after he has put everything he knows into coming up with what appears to be the perfect dish. Meanwhile, one of Kai's girls is outside the building, screaming at the top of her voice because Kai dumped her in the worst way possible. She suddenly notices crazy Milo climbing up the windows to reach Kai's apartment. Gaku continues with his dilemma, telling Kai that he has never made desserts before. He then tells Kai that he is ready to make improvements to his dish, but he doesn't think his dish has to be evaluated so strictly. The two are still in the middle of this conversation when Milo appears at the window. He claims that he has been ringing the doorbell, but he didn't get an answer. Instead of waiting for Gaku to open the window, Milo kicks it in and flies into the room. Milo then tells Kai that it is time he tells Gaku the truth because the date for the award ceremony is drawing closer, and they can't afford to have Gaku depressed till then. Milo then walks up to Gaku, telling him that he has liked him from the very beginning because he can make delicious dishes. However, everyone intentionally became strict with him so that he could continue making more delicious dishes. Gaku then asks Milo why they didn't give him a pass for his dish. Milo admits that the dish he prepared was something original that can only be made by him. However, Milo doesn't think Gaku should settle for an ordinary chef. Kai then mentions that Gaku's only weapon is mathematics, but he didn't incorporate it into his cooking. He reminds him that this is the second time he will be telling him this. Kai said the dish Gaku prepared was very far away from mathematics, but Kai wants him to prepare something that goes with mathematics. Milo then tells him that his dish needs to have his presence and existence in it so that it can convince heroes. Gaku's entire world crumbles when he hears this, and he asks Kai why he was asked to make dessert. Realizing that he has no way out, Gaku gets up and runs away from the house. He crashes into Kai's girl, but he doesn't stop. Later that night, Gaku prepares to run back home after coming to the conclusion that there is nothing he can do to satisfy Kai. He brings out his phone to check the bus departure time. This is when he realizes that he has a load of messages from Ayu and his father. He checks his father's message only to see that it is an official email from Heroes, talking about him coming to the award ceremony to taste Gaku's dish. Gaku sees this and totally loses it. Momentarily, the waitress arrives with a cake for Gaku. Gaku is surprised since he didn't order a cake, but the waitress lets him know that any customer who orders a cup of tea gets a free cake in return. This is when it finally dawns on Gaku that he is inside a cafe, leaving him to wonder why he subconsciously entered a cafe. While consuming the cake with tears in his eyes, Gaku concludes that there is still a part of himself that he would like to challenge. After he is done eating, he checks his phone, and he is surprised to see that Heroes has sent him his thesis. At the restaurant, Hotai finds Kai in a terrible state, and he immediately figures out that Kai is in a bad mood because Gaku ran away. Apparently, Kai has a way of chasing people away, and Hotai thinks he has finally reached the stage where Gaku won't be coming back. He hasn't finished his statement when Gaku appears in the room, looking exhausted. Not long after this, Rana finds Eniyu outside the restaurant, peeping through the window. She challenges Eniyu about this, and Eniyu mentions that she is not a creep, but she has someone working in the restaurant. Just then, Rana and Eniyu see Gaku serving Kai ice cream. Eniyu cannot believe her eyes as she asks Rana if Gaku is training to make desserts. On the inside, Kai asks Gaku why he is wearing the intern uniform when he is no longer in training. Gaku replies that he is still learning to make desserts, which makes him a student in the area. He serves Kai his carefully carved ice cream, and Kai commends him for creating beautiful art out of the ice cream. He lets him know that he can feel his passion through the carving of the ice cream. And this tells Kai that Gaku has been training while locked up in his room. Kai already knows that Gaku is the type who doesn't like to lose. Kai lets Gaku know that he tried better than the others who tried it, and Gaku asks him to point him to the next thing. Meanwhile, Eniyu had followed Rana into the restaurant so that they could both watch Gaku do his thing. To teach Gaku the next thing he needs to know, Kai takes him to the kitchen. Kai tells Gaku that he will be teaching him how to make ice cream, which is something most restaurants don't do. Kai tells Gaku the initial procedures needed and then hands him a notebook detailing the entire procedure and the amount of ingredients needed to produce a good ice cream. Gaku is impressed by the amount of details inside the note, and he puts them in his head. On the other hand, Hotai doesn't think numbers and details will help Gaku get the hang of being a pastry chef, since it takes more external factors than what Kai is telling Gaku. After Gaku is done memorizing the details and numbers, he starts making the ice cream, but his first try turns out lumpy, shocking him. Since he followed all the procedures in the book, Kai grabs his hand and notices that he is shaking from nervousness. Kai then tells him to do it all over again, while pointing out his errors. Before long, Gaku has made several bowls of trashy ice cream. Gaku gets tired and falls to his knees, asking Kai if being a pastry chef prevents freedom. Rana hears this from where she is standing and realizes that Gaku is already losing the one thing that makes him unique, which is the freedom to cook up special recipes out of nothing. Rana wants to run into the room to help Gaku, but Enyu stops her, telling her that Gaku has always thrived whenever he is backed into a corner. Gaku continues trying the ice cream recipe, and Kai asks him why he came back to the restaurant after running away. Gaku then reveals that he read Hiros's thesis, and in the thesis, he is able to come to the conclusion that mathematics comes with loneliness. However, the lonelier a mathematician is, the more ideas he puts out. Gaku compares Hiros to Kai, since they are both on top of their worlds. He believes that they have reached the pinnacle of their art, leaving them unhappy since there is nothing to discover again. Gaku then compares a chef to a mathematician, saying the lonelier the chef is, the more delicious their food is. Gaku reveals that he hasn't reached the stage of loneliness yet, which is why he can't give, as he wants to know what is ahead of him. Gaku doesn't care if destruction is what awaits, he just wants to push ahead. This shocks Kai and the girls, but just after saying this, Gaku passes out from exhaustion. Kai grabs him, and he tells Rana to bring the assorted fruits that Hotai bought earlier. When Gaku wakes up, he is shocked to see Enyu in the room. Just then, Kai enters the room with a plate of specially carved fruits for Gaku. Kai tells Gaku how he made the dessert, but Enyu cuts in, telling Kai that he can't compare himself with Gaku because he is nothing but an unhappy loner. Suddenly, something clicks in his brain, and Kai grabs him, asking him if he has finally figured it out. Kai is glad that his actions have finally made an effect on Gaku, which is something he has been driving towards from the start. Soon afterward, D-Day finally arrives, and Gaku appears to be more prepared than ever. Momentarily, Hiros walks to the stage to collect his award, and after giving his speech, he walks up to a terrified Kagura to ask her where Gaku is. Kagura can feel the immense pressure from Hiros, and she knows that Gaku will be swallowed up completely if Gaku doesn't come prepared. Meanwhile, it is total chaos in the kitchen as the chefs are trying to put everything together. Rana is in charge of the appetizer, but she is having a hard time doing everything by herself. She calls for help, and Gaku is the only one who turns up. Rana is worried, but Gaku begs her to allow him help because he can't afford to stay idle. Rana then agrees, and she tells the proportions at which she wants the ingredients to be prepared. They are able to put everything together quickly and serve the waiting guests. When Hotai arrives at the kitchen, Rana asks him about Kai, and he reveals that Kai will be running late. Rana then reveals her worries about Gaku. She tells Hotai that Gaku has not been himself for days. She remembers that Gaku was having difficulties making custard cream the last time he was training with Kai. And then the next day, Gaku showed up in the kitchen with a bulk load of ingredients that he started checking out by himself. He sat with the ingredients for hours while jotting down seemingly important figures in his notes. Even when he was told that it was break time, Gaku never left his seat. Since Hotai was once a pastry chef, Rana asks him if he has any idea why Gaku did the things that he did. Hotai confesses that he has no idea what is going on inside Gaku's head. Nin pops out of nowhere, revealing that Gaku sat down for 2 weeks sampling ingredients, then he suddenly filed for a 3-day leave. He revealed that he wanted to go to his hometown for 3 days, shocking everyone. When Inui heard this, he teased Gaku, asking him if he was trying to run away from the reality of things. However, Gaku just remained silent until Hotai walked over to him, telling him that he was ready to escort him back to his hometown if that was what he wanted. While preparing his dish, Milo asks Hotai to finish the story because he is already invested in it. Hotai reminds him that he is the one serving the next dish and urges him to focus, but Rana disputes this, reminding Milo that he and Kai are the source of Gaku's problems. Wang soon enters the room to urge his colleagues to get a move on because he wants everyone to enjoy his dish. Rana brings out the eel to be used for the next dish, but she still wants the story to continue. She wants to know exactly what Gaku did when he went back to his hometown. Hotai then continues the story and reveals that when they arrived at Gaku's hometown, he went to a botany shop. He started looking around without answering either Hotai or Enyu, who escorted him. Enyu is such a cute girl since she took a leave from her coach just so she could escort Gaku back home. Enyu was genuinely confused as to what Gaku was doing in the town, but Hotai assumed that Gaku had come back home to have a change of scenery. He adds that there is the possibility that he is looking for inspiration. However, they both agree that Gaku has become more mysterious. The two are still talking about Gaku when Gaku's father appears behind them. The man started talking about how happy he is that his son is finally starting to appreciate nature. Apparently, Gaku never liked nature, which is why he named him Gaku in the first place. When Gaku's father noticed Enyu, he completely mistook her for Kagura, whom Gaku is always talking about. As the conversation continues, Gaku's father reveals that since Gaku came back, he hasn't even looked at him. Hotai and Enyu are shocked to hear this, and it finally dawns on them that they might be wrong. It was at that moment that Gaku called out Hotai's name, telling him that he had finally found the last ingredient for the dessert he wanted to make. This leaves everyone confused as they are not expecting dessert ingredients to be lying around in a botany garden. They watch as Gaku munches on some flower petals that he picked off the ground. Apparently, Gaku had concluded that the ingredients inside the kitchen would not be enough to make the dessert that he wanted. He walks up to Hotai, telling him that the petals are the last ingredient that has been looking for. Now in the present, Kai arrives at the kitchen, and he commends everyone for their hard work because he can see that they are getting positive reviews from the guests. He then walks over to Gaku to tell him that it is almost time for him to deliver his dish. Since Gaku is still inexperienced, he promises to help him out. Gaku accepts the help, and he passes his note to Kai. Kai sees the note, and he is stunned, but there is an expression of pride on his face. Rana and Inui also offer to help, but Gaku politely rejects, telling them that Kai is enough for what he wants to do. Gaku and Kai swing into action as they prepare the dessert. Hotai tells Rana that Gaku might be inexperienced in making desserts, but he knows exactly what he wants to do. Momentarily, the guests and heroes in particular asked for dessert, and Gaku appeared just in time. The moment Heroes sees Gaku, he stands on his feet to welcome him. Hotai and Milo finally see the dude who Gaku has always been scared of. Hotai also realized that Gaku was isolating himself on purpose. He hasn't been looking at anyone since he got his inspiration. Kogura, Enyu, and even the chefs are all worried about Gaku, since they know his career depends on whether he is able to conquer heroes or not. Gaku finally served the guests the long-awaited dessert, and Heroes' eyes lit up in shock. When Heroes rushes over to where Gaku is to taunt him, he refuses to look him in the face, just like he has been doing to everyone else. Heroes even makes a funny pose to try to get Gaku's attention, but Gaku remains focused. When Gaku is ready, he pulls himself together and grabs a plate of dessert for Heroes. Heroes takes the plate, and Nin puts a mic to Gaku's mouth so he can explain to everyone how he prepared the dessert. Gaku confidently tells them the base ingredients for the dessert, and after hearing this, the guest concludes that it is their regular dessert. Meanwhile, Rana is worried that the dessert might not be up to standard for the guests. The dessert has a good appearance, but everyone knows that the taste is what matters. Milo knows that their efforts will go to waste if the dessert turns out to be bad, which is why desserts make up for the icing on the cake when serving guests. Gaku then urges Heroes to taste the dessert. He and the other guests take a spoon out of it, and Heroes initially commends Gaku, saying the dessert is okay. However, the dessert taste suddenly hits the right spot, and Heroes feels another sensation rushing in. Even when Heroes thinks the sensation is gone, more continues to flood in. Before they assume that the sensation is over, Gaku tells them to continue eating. They take another bite, and this gives off another taste. Heroes is curious about the fruit in it, and Gaku explains that it is a grapefruit. The guests are marveled by the taste and sensation that comes with every bite that they take. The guests are left in awe as they start questioning just what sort of dessert it is that they are eating. The guests all agree that they have not tasted something so delicious and nice before. Heroes wants to fight fault, but with every spoon he takes, he is thrown into the ocean of awesomeness that Gaku created when making the dessert. Kagura's father is so impressed that he urges Gaku to explain to everyone how he was able to create such a dessert. When Kagura's father mentions his name, it catches the attention of the guests. They remember him as the dude who once participated in the math competition, but they are surprised that he has become a chef. Gaku then rides the wave to further explain that desserts can be made using geometric shapes and numbers. He lets the guests know that desserts are the most crucial type of dish, and they require even more mathematical equations to get the right fit. Gaku reveals how he got the inspiration for what to do when he tasted the dessert that was made for him by Kai. This was when he realized that he could use mathematical equations to completely change the outcome of the dish. One of the guests asks him what sort of equation he used, and Gaku starts to explain the formation at which he put the dessert together. To the mathematical minds in the house, Gaku is a speaking genius, while those who have no knowledge about mathematics think he is some sort of wizard. Gaku then explains how he sourced his ingredients and how he was able to get the last piece of the ingredient in his hometown. Gaku is then asked what sort of element he used, and he reveals that he used plating because the plating is also very important in the way the dish turns out. While explaining his dish to them, Gaku loses himself in the sheer joy that he is feeling. Just then, Heroes asks him why he chose to make dessert out of all the dishes. Gaku and Heroes' eyes meet as they share a bright smile. Gaku is impressed by the question that Heroes asked him, and he reveals that dessert is the most complex dish of all. He explains that he could have prepared fish or meat, but their method of preparation and ingredients are limited, unlike dessert. He says dessert can come in different forms and can be made using loads of methods, which makes the outcomes from a dessert an infinite possibility. Heroes is blown away by everything Gaku just explained to him. The guests can no longer contain their happiness as they all stand up to clap for him. Gaku's colleagues are all impressed by how the entire thing turned out, and they heaved a sigh of relief. After the event, Gaku's name didn't leave the mouths of the guests. Even Kagura saw Gaku as her knight in shining armor, who saved her from the overwhelming pressure put on her by Heroes. Later on, Rana and Hotai challenge Kai's method on how he pushed Gaku to the brink. Meanwhile, Heroes has no choice but to admit that Gaku is an impressive fellow, and he wants to continue admiring him as a chef. Hotai then tells Kai that there is a possibility that Gaku will break down if he remains in his state. He and Rana ask him if this is what he wants, and Kai laughs like a maniac, saying yes. On the other hand, Gaku has now taken an interest in becoming a good pastry chef because of the endless possibilities attached to it. Later on, Eniu also makes the cut in her swimming team, leaving her ecstatic. As for Gaku, he continued enjoying life as a pastry chef, and during his break one day, his father came to pay him a visit. Gaku excitedly serves his father a plate of food while thinking about how high he can go in the cuisine space.
Guys, that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, please leave a comment in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Like the video and share it too. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.